Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 530 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Janelle Slade. Well, fall has fallen to the wayside as a blast of winter and snow and cold moves into our region.
And you're looking live right now at the commute home out on 4th and Main is heading out toward the Heights. A midday blast of snow undid any effort to clean up Saturday's snow. And now we're faced with dauntingly cold temperatures, slippery streets, and more snow.
Now this storm and all that comes with it, putting people across the state in dangerous driving conditions.
Montana Highway Patrol reporting hundreds of crashes since this morning, many of them slide-offs. Here in Billings, cars sliding through intersections and downhill. In fact, the slippery streets forcing vehicles to slow down to a crawl. The Billings Police Department enacted its slick street policy this afternoon. That means slide-offs, fender benders, and other non-injury crashes may not get an immediate response due to the volume of calls.
As you can see here, we'll take a look here. Bull Mountain off of US 87 near Roundup is also covered in snow. And with the high winds, that makes conditions even worse. And it's nearly impossible to see the Bozeman Pass from the Montana Department of Transportation cameras. The roadways are coated in snow, and it's leading to a number of slide-offs down the steep terrain.
And the Montana Department of Transportation has issued a severe driving warning for several areas in south central Montana due to the blowing and drifting snow.
At this hour, that includes all of Highway 212 to Red Lodge and from I-90 from Reed Point to Park City.
All right, Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire joining us now. And Bob, kind of a miserable Monday as far as our weather goes. Definitely out on the roads.
A lot of alliteration for that one. I'm proud of you on that one. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's really hard to drive today because we've got very icy streets and we're still getting a little light snow on top of all that as well. We currently have a winter weather advisory for the Billings area and much of south central Montana. As you see here, about 2 to 4 inches of snow out of this thing and 30-mile-per-hour winds. A little farther south, it's 2 to 5 inches of snow. And as you can see over in the Beartooth foothills, could see 6 to 9 inches of snow at 30-mile-per-hour winds. Upsloping snows could really cause some problems in that area. Meanwhile, you'll notice we still have some scattered snow showers expected out on the Rocky Mountain front and also out there by Lewistown. But we still have a winter weather advisory across much of western Montana as well. So here's how this whole thing's playing out. It's a cold front that moved through tonight, and it continues to drop a little bit farther south. But even by 10 o'clock, you'll see scattered snow showers. But by tomorrow, high pressure moves in. Sunny skies move in as well, but temperatures will remain cool. How cool? Well, we'll chat about that coming up in a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Well, snow also piling up across the rest of the state, causing problems from border to border.
We'll start in Great Falls, where below freezing temperatures and heavy snow sent drivers sliding off the roads and crews into a frenzy, trying to do everything they could to stay ahead of Mother Nature. The snow fell for at least 3 hours over in Helena. And that meant there was plenty of time for the capital city to see its own share of slick streets and accidents.
In western Montana, at least 2 inches coated Missoula, turning the Garden City into an ice garden as the snow accumulated. And over in Kalispell, snow and high winds created a mess of the area, with police responding to dozens of accidents in just a short time.
Well, one place where the weather is welcome is Red Lodge Mountain.
The ski season doesn't open for another month, but the mountain is already covered in white. A post on the Red Lodge Mountain Facebook page today states there's 2 feet of snow on the ground and another foot on the way. That's on top of a good base that was already building up.
Red Lodge Mountain slated to open on November 29th this year. Well, an accidental fire destroys a mobile home in the Billings Heights Saturday evening, and 2 malfunctioning fire hydrants didn't help matters. Those hydrants, Cherry Creek Home's responsibility. Q2's Zoe Zandor digs deeper to find out just what happened.
The owner and his wife, they, bless their heart, their exact statement was they're going to make this right.
An emotional day for mobile home owner Chad Morrison as he walks through the ashes left behind of his belongings lost in the flames.
To see if there's anything I can do. I tried to fire extinguisher. I couldn't do nothing, so I had to back off.
While battling the fire, the Billings Fire Department had trouble using 2 fire hydrants that seemed to be malfunctioning, slowing their ability to not necessarily combat the fire, but according to Billings Fire Marshal Michael Speeney, could have hindered the mop-up.
We weren't aware that the hydrants they weren't shut off, but they were turned down to where they were getting barely a trickle. We couldn't understand that. They had it out. They needed hot spots checked, and it reignited and took off from the rest of the house.
Now these hydrants are on private property, which means it was Cherry Creek's responsibility. So what happened? Why didn't the hydrants work? Cherry Creek Homes owner Jock Claus says the hydrants didn't work due to an underground gate valve being partially closed. How did that happen? He doesn't know.
First thing Sunday morning, Jock and family members were down here checking all the hydrants because it was completely unknown. Nobody knew. So they came down and they made sure everything was up to par, everything's up going. So everything's charged and working the way they should.
Claus says the last time they checked was back in 2018. The valve was open and all pipes were tested and charged, ready to use. The fire caused an estimated $35,000 in property and content damages. And yet homeowner Chad Morrison says he has no ill will against the property owners. He says they're going to make it right with me, and they need praise for that.
I can't thank them enough. They're such wonderful people.
In Billings, Zoe Zandora, MTN News.
Well, Fire Marshal Michael Speeney told Zoe the department did go around and check all of the hydrants since, and they all are working now. He also would like to take the opportunity to remind people with winter coming that it is a good idea to keep safety in mind. During the winter, there are, of course, many ways to keep your house warm, but you do need to be careful because this is a time when there are many house fires. So here's some cold weather safety tips they want to remind you about. Keep space heaters 3 feet away from things that can catch on fire, such as upholstered furniture, clothing, mattresses, or bedding. It's also important to make sure heating systems are working properly to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning.
Well, Billings is a site tomorrow for a U.S. State Department public meeting to gather comments on the proposed Keystone XL pipeline, that $10 billion pipeline to transport Canadian tar sands oil to Gulf Coast refineries remains on hold while the project awaits final permits from the Bureau of Land Management and the Army Corps of Engineers. Now, the public meeting runs from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Billings Hotel and Convention Center on Maloney Lane. If you'd like to weigh in, you can submit written comment at several computer stations on site or meet with stenographers in private there. Now, prior to the public meeting, 2 environmental groups opposed to the XL pipeline will host a rally outside the Billings Hotel. The goal is to raise concerns over the State Department format that they claim stifles public participation. The rally, organized by Northern Plains Resource Council, begins at 4, again, just a half hour prior to that public meeting. We'll have full coverage of both events tomorrow online and at KTVQ.com. and at 5:30 on Q2.
Well, proponents of a voter initiative to legalize adult use of marijuana in Montana say they're now allied with national groups, including one that has helped finance successful efforts in other states. They formed a new ballot committee called New Approach Montana and are prepared to spend at least $3 million to try and get a measure on the 2020 Montana ballot and passed. New Approach Montana hopes to submit language for 2 ballot measures for state review by the end of November, start gathering signatures early next year. One would legalize marijuana use in Montana, and the other would be a constitutional amendment to allow the legislature to restrict marijuana use to adults 21 and older. The effort would be aided by New Approach PAC, a national political action committee that's helped finance ballot measures in other states, and the Marijuana Policy Project, another national group. The group says its polling shows that a strong majority of Montanans support legalizing marijuana use for adults. A proposed initiative in Montana needs the signatures of about 25,500 registered voters to qualify for the ballot in 2020.
Well, Montanans could be betting on sports even before the new year. State regulators are now taking comment on the proposed rules to make that happen. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian takes a closer look at the proposals and the potential concerns.
On Monday morning, the Montana Lottery gave the public a chance to give their input on proposed rules to bring legalized sports betting to the state.
We want the public to be involved. That's very important to us. So today's hearing was the chance for people to say in person what they thought about the rules.
During this year's legislative session, lawmakers passed a bill authorizing sports wagering under the Montana Lottery. The lottery unveiled draft rules earlier this month. The proposed rules would allow sports betting only at businesses with gambling operator licenses. Players could bet in person at licensed facilities, or they could create sports wagering accounts to bet using electronic devices. People would be able to put spending limits and other limits on the accounts to encourage responsible gaming, and they would be able to file a form to keep an account from being created in their name. One point of discussion Monday was over a rule that sports betting could only be offered at businesses that hold a liquor license. The Montana Tavern Association supported that provision.
It's clear during the legislative process that this sports betting product was designed to be in bars, restaurants, and taverns that held an appropriate alcohol license and that are licensed gaming operators.
But opponents said that rule is creating an additional restriction that wasn't part of the law.
You got to have a liquor license. Well, that would exclude such as establishments such as bingo.
Lottery leaders say they're still on track to roll out sports betting around the end of this year.
Our timeline hasn't changed. We're just moving forward towards product launch even as this public process is happening.
In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Thanks, Jonathan. And the Lottery Commission will accept written and online comments on the proposed rules through next Monday.
There is more news from across our state on the MTN 9 o'clock news. A Montana university launching an initiative to help meet the high-tech workforce needs of businesses. Join Jeanelle for that and more tonight on your statewide news at 9.
But first on tonight's 5:30 news, for bears and other wild animals, your jack-o'-lanterns could be putting the treat in Trick or Treat. Find out what you should do next.
And later in sports, how not even a top 10 finish could make this past weekend state cross-country meet one Laurel runner's favorite moment of the season.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger, Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire, and sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 news on Q2, Montana's news leader.